revisiting that, how is our practicing and race prep and just rowing and technical movements in general been going? Any questions or things reviewed before we proceed forward with more stuff?
Well, I think, in my mind, and I was talking to Jim about this too, I wouldn't be surprised if this applied to Sebastian, is if we get a good start, I mean, and we've been working on them, and I think those are not bad, not every time, but there then is the sweet spot. Where do you find the right speed that you can keep, and how do you not lose it? And a lot of times losing it isn't, oh, I'm just too tired. It's kind of concentration. Yeah. It's like all of a sudden I look down and my split has gone slower and I'm going 2 strokes less than I thought I should go, you know what I mean?
Right.
But it's just something more mental than, and it certainly matters because you see it in the splits.
Oh yeah. Well, that's a really short question, but it covers pretty much all of rowing right there. In terms of
that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. Just a one-shot answer. To try and be as concise as I can be with that. So, assuming we've gotten through the start and we haven't sort of duffed it, which, as you mentioned, you're getting better at that. So the consistency, some of it's looking at as we learn how to basically shift on our hips for those first couple strokes so that we at least are into our feet. It ensures that we are much more consistent with the pressure into the blades of both sides so we get out cleanly, so we get the boat moving. Once the boat gets moving, we have better chance of staying stable. So after we do our 10, 15, 20 tops of start sequence plus high something, we've pretty much used up our whatever little energy reserves and sugar stores we had, so we're now going to have to shift down into something sustainable. If we are actually doing pieces, we figure out what that is. What's our sustainable base rate for 1,000 meters? And so we practice why we do our pieces, and we try to figure out what that is, where I can kind of, it's not totally comfortable, but I could do this for basically 750. And so I figured that out, and then once there's going to be variability from week to week with my training. Then when I'm going off for my race, that's what I'm shooting to settle for. And when I'm doing my practice starts and settles, if my start sequence is 5, high 10, and then I throw in a settle 10. That's the start sequence. And so when I settle, after I look and say maybe I'm looking down once or twice through there, did I settle into the right rate? So in my mind, I get a real clear sense of what that feels like. And then, of course, when I'm racing, I do have to be honest a little bit. This becomes totally automatic, I have to check that whatever electronic equipment I have with me to verify that I'm at the right stroke rate.
Is settling longer or slower?
Longer or slower what?
Well, so you're going 38.
Yeah.
And you want to go 34.
Yeah.
Do you go 30, and you're also shorter in start in 10, your stroke may be shorter. Is it that I then go the same, but I lengthen my stroke to go down my stroke rate, or do I?
Yeah, there's a couple things. So first of all, after the starting 5 and that high 10, 15, whatever, we hope that we are getting out to full slide. This is the point. So if it is shorter, then there's something we're missing. So once we've gotten the momentum, yes, then we should be kind of lengthening up, and that's a starting sequence. You're going to have 3/4 or half, and then possibly 3/4. Somebody told me they were doing half, or whatever. So you're progressively lengthening up, and after about 5, maybe 6 strokes, you're at full slide. Hopefully, you're progressively lengthening, increasing speed and lengthening the stroke. After that 5, then it's like, all right, now I'm really going to start to get the speed by putting some power into it. The boat's moving, I don't have to worry about wobbliness, and I'm really going to crank on it to get this speed going. For you, of course, within reason, so I'm not cranking and going deep. It's accelerate the boat even more. And I do that.
What point is that?
After the starting 5.
After the starting 5.
So that's like our high 10, it's called high 10 or 15, because it is high.
Right.
We're fresh. It's like, whoop!
Right.
So I'm going to be doing something that is going to be probably, if I track it effectively, this is probably going to be the highest strokes I'm going to take through the course of the race.
And the hardest.
Well, I'm the freshest, the hardest in terms of fastest.
Yeah,
So
Walker Nolte says that in the starts,
Yeah.
they use 40% more power than the average the rest of the race.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it if you actually plot from if you program your speed coach or whatever, electronic, you plot it out, you can see the speed. I mean, the rate goes, speed goes, after the first, it starts dropping down, and then if you notice, if you're looking, does somebody settle, like somewhere 45 seconds after the clock starts, there should be something that's sort of into this sort of plateau that I'm hopefully tracking across.
Does this make any sense to you guys?
Yes,
Is this, because for me, it's just like, how do you learn that? What do you do to learn that?
Well, okay, so learn that. So you got your starts, and if you're doing just your starts in your high 10 or high 15 or whatever, I see what I'm hitting on the rate, and I have a sense of like, that's how fast I can get, that's how efficient I am with my technique to get this up to wherever I'm, as you said, Nolte's talking 40%. I haven't, gotten it, but that sounds about right. So I'm cranking it, but then I know I got to drop down because the race is long. This is aerobic. This is not 100-meter dash. So I got to drop down, and I have to then find that rhythm, and that rhythm is when I'm doing my pieces, multiple, 6x whatever's on the 750s or something. I know what that is because I've got all the data to support it, saying this at this point in my training and my fitness, this is what I can sustain. And if I'm paying attention, hopefully as I'm working on this training, I'm looking for consistency. Not I had one awesome piece and I did one 750 at a 34, and the rest I was at a 28. I'm like, no. We want consistency, and if we find that, then we have a sense, here's my average, this is where I'm at. And that's what I'm looking to do in the race piece, maybe a beat higher than that, because assuming I'm going to have a little more adrenaline going. And I test that. So I do my start, high 10 or 15, then my settle 10, and say, can I drop down into that rhythm? And so at the 10, you're going through, and that sort of, if you're doing high 10, it's like 8, 9, settle, and it's just a little bit, you just take a little bit more time, longer, and you just get in that settle stroke because you have now decelerated a little bit in terms of the rating. You really have to make sure that you get that settle stroke. If you're doing one settle or multiple, depending how many times you come down, you've got to hit that hard because the speed is just dropping. To set the rhythm, you've got to be able to get it correctly. So that if I'm doing sort of a slow speed piece here, so if I'm doing some sort of a high start where I'm kind of going through here, and I got to settle. So I went from 38 to 30.
So you were talking about your first in the settle, the first few you want to
The
concentrate.
first one.
Okay, good.
If you're going to settle, so you settle to a particular mark, and it's that lengthening when you're making that intention of, I'm at a high rate, so boom, doing 10. Like I can't sustain this, so I'm going to have to drop down into my base. And with that, then I have to have a sense of how fast I'm going and how much I have to shift down. It's like, yes.
Go ahead. Are you finished with this?
I'm sorry.
Is that?
Yeah,
good?
that's right.
Yeah, so the
That's
shifting down, yes.
Well, once you have settled and you're in control, how important is it to look at the monitor, your device?
It's helpful to kind of every now and then. I wouldn't obsess about it because there's lots of other stuff going on in the race. So you have to kind of gauge and see, does this actually work for you? But as Terry's mentioning, so if you think you're so, potential to have you so relaxed, and then I just kind of let off on the split a little bit, this is a problem. I mean, if it's coming off by a second or two, but if you look down and like, ooh, I'm 5 seconds slower than my target's like, this is for a 1,000-meter race, this is a problem.
But I would assume that you're all fired up to be at a higher rating than
It
that.
depends. I mean, this is the art of actually learning how to race. Is you have to find that groove, that rhythm, and it's different every single time you go out. It's like you're fishing around for that sweet spot. it's like you're kind of, I don't know, like improvising jazz. It's like you all just come together and it's like, where's the rhythm, where's the harmony? You have to find it. And so, just the boat's ready anytime you kind of get online. And so that's why I've been kind of, these last years talking to you guys about closing your eyes, feeling the boat. Because once you get into that rhythm, given the conditions, you can find, like, where's my body right at this point? And sometimes you go like, oh man, that was the sweetest rhythm ever. I had it until 300 to go, and then something fell apart. And then I had to, so it's a negotiation. If you're fortunate, sometimes you have long stretches of it, but if you're running close to the edge, many times not.
Well, as mentioned to you, I felt like I really was in control of my race, and that was my objective with this race. And the second race, I kind of fell apart, but then I regained my composure with it. Now, Chris, you always read about the strategies, the race strategies. So I see a boat approaching me, and then what? You have to think about it, or how does that reconcile with rowing your own race?
Yeah.
Because I was trying to row as well as I possibly could.
Right.
I didn't pay any attention to the other boat.
Right.
Albeit she was far behind me.
Yes.
The first race. So the pressure wasn't on me.
Right.
But neck and neck, how much attention does one pay?
Well, that is, that's what makes racing so fun.
Yeah.
So, assuming that assuming that we have gotten to a point where we are consistent enough with our performance, so we have a sense of what we're shooting for within us. And so then from within there, we know kind of where the limits are of where we can realistically push. And when we're racing, if we've taking off from the race, typically we're looking at, with long 2Ks, the first 500, it's all internal. And sometimes even the first 1,000. You're just racing your race. It really depends on how confident you are in your training and where you are doing your own thing, rather than reacting to what everybody else is doing. For you guys in general, I would say you've got to get through the start, the settle. So you got to get past the 250 before you even start worrying or thinking about doing an assessment of what's happening around you. Because it doesn't matter. You have to get into your rhythm. And if you don't get into your rhythm, if you're reacting right away, good luck. So if you can get in, it's like, here's the rhythm for my race today. I'm just like, bam, I've got it. Yeah, cool, all right. So now I feel the rhythm, I got the rate, everything's looking good. Take a quick look around, where do I stack up? Where am I, for Masters, we got 6 across, so you've got, wherever you're sitting in that spread, you're looking to both sides, depending where you're at, and then, so you do a quick assessment, then you're back in. So if there's somebody that's close, or whatever, you have a sense of it, so mentally you're holding them, but you're still rowing your race. And then you're at the 500, and then again, you quickly look and say, so now 500 to go, halfway through, is there a move? From a strategy standpoint, like, where am I in terms of my fatigue? How much energy reserves do I have? How much space do I have left? If I'm going to make a move, when am I going to do this? Because you probably experience with singles, it's as soon as you can get out of someone's field of vision, it's much easier. So it's a matter of like when and how you put those moves on. When you're racing 6 across, it's very hard to keep a tab on where those people are out in lane 6 and 1. So they're kind of really, unless you really look around, or especially if they're a length or 2 up, they're really out of your field of vision. So you have to, you want to look, but you're looking too much is also going to disrupt the rhythm. So you have to be efficient with how much you look around, where are you, and then put in your moves. And after, you throw them, okay, so I'm here, this boat here is a length and a half ahead of me. I'm going to put in a 20 here for a move and see if I can, push up on them a little bit. And then I have to, maybe at the end of the move or midway through, if I'm doing 20, I take a look again and see what's happened. And if I'm moving on them, good. And if they're pushing back, then it's like I got to dig a little deeper into the energy well to kind of push them, and that's the racing, pushing back and through. And then hopefully that's going to get us from, if not 450 to 250, somewhere to go, somewhere in there. This is when we get to, for you guys at least, when you're getting to at least 200, buoys start getting close to changing. We're looking around. As soon as we've seen those buoys turn red, we have to make sure that we are cranking the rating up, emptying the tank. Because we know that somewhere here on our race course, somewhere through here, if there's any fatigue or drop in speed, this is probably where it's going to happen. Right in through here. From that 7 some right around 750, somewhere in here.
This is the point where I say I'm never doing this again.
Oh yeah, right, right. And that's where the mental discipline and focus comes in. Is that sense of like, have you trained that in your regular training through the course of weeks and weeks to keep your mind on task. So.
Well, I say that, and then I try to so do the best I can because I'm never doing this again. That's part of it.
Yep. Just one stroke at a time. Just bamming away. Anything else from that?
I think, but this is why you have a race plan to begin with, right? I mean,
it's a race plan.
Is kind
hopefully,
of your guideline, and then
yes,
you might have to make some adjustments, but you practice to the race plan. And like when you're doing pieces out here, then you try to at least I try to do that is try to stick with what is my race plan, like what's the rate that I want to be at in my body for the race.
Correct.
And then sustain that rate and see if I can do that. And if I can't do it, then I think I have to adjust my race plan.
Right. And so hopefully your race plan is, I mean, if you're ambitious enough, you're saying, yeah, I think I could probably hold 35 or 30 or whatever it is. And then it's based on knowing that usually during a race I've got a little more adrenaline going. So if I can control that, I usually can probably do a little more than I would if I'm just doing pieces and it's just a regular Tuesday. And then I test it and I see does that actually work? And then if it doesn't, then I adjust it a little bit. But yeah, I hopefully have a ballpark. And then the challenge with, particularly for you guys in the Masters is, some of these people that just pop in, how often do you see them? Do you really know? Some people that you have a consistent sense of like this guy's going to be fast or this woman's going to be fast, but there's a big question mark. People just pop in. So you just have to kind of adapt and see where you are, especially with 6 across, during the course of the race. And with that, you have to also look soon enough so that you have room to make a move if that need arises. Looking at 250 to go to kind of see where am I and everybody else. If somebody's got 3 lengths on you, it's like, whoa, good luck. You have to move it. You have to kind of have a sense of that at the appropriate time. So if you're going to make a change, you have time and distance to do it. You don't want to run out of real estate. That's, of all the experiences, that's one of the worst ones to get. It's like, I know I was walking on this person. If I had just started this move a little sooner, I probably could have taken him. So, good stuff. Any other questions? It's a long, good move, Ash and cover up. All right. So moving on to our next little level of technique. Now that we've gotten into a nice piece of summer, we are going to be looking at here how to really practice staying connected to our feet and staying honest with this. So now that the weather's nice and warm, we are going to look at feet out. Okay. So the whole point here is to ensure that as we get to the latter part of the stroke, we are maintaining connection through here. And if we do not have the shoes kind of holding us tight in here, if we lose that pressure and the balance of pressure between something into the feet and the tension that we're using to pry through, we're going to find ourselves falling this way, which is a little bit disconcerting in a single, because then you have the sense that you're going to fall into the water, which if you don't pay attention, you will, which is why we do it in the summer. So what we're looking for here is the ability to hold pressure all the way through, and if we hold pressure, then the blade is moving through, maintaining a pocket we have space to get out with. Okay, is everybody's familiar with that? Okay, and so when you do this initially, you're probably going to find that you're doing something kind of like this, body not even swinging forward. That's fine. But what we're looking for is, as we're prying through, we're being patient enough with our legs so that we maintain pressure into our feet all the way to the end of the stroke. And so it really forces you to pay attention to this. I would suggest starting out with this, doing paddle pressure, low rate.
You're lifting your heels off the...
The heels are coming off as I come through because I'm maintaining contact. As I come through, if I keep just the heels on, I'm going to fall this way. I don't have the same contact and force than this.
Is that what you want to achieve?
Yes, we've talked about this. So in terms of maintaining a point of contact and extension all the way through to give us a longer distance to work with. flexion in the ankles.
I thought that was just my way of trying to cheat out another inch or so.
No,
but
this is a good,
I
it's
catch myself
we've
doing
demonstrated this in the
Okay,
past
good.
in terms of having you try to jump with your feet flat versus letting your feet come up. You can jump higher. You can get more force this way. So this is a good adaptation. So we want to get a little toe point going on here. All right. So a couple ways you can progress with this. If you are really nervous about just doing this without your feet in, so basically what you're doing is your heels stay in the heel cups of the shoes, but the rest of your foot is on top of the shoe. If that's too nervous for you, you can put your feet in the shoes, but just do not tighten them. So there's a little bit of play, and if you're paying attention, you'll feel when your feet actually kind of fall back into the top part of the shoe through here. Okay, so you do it at a low rate, and initially light pressure, and you're just looking for basically, not total, complete, absolute, just this. There has to be a little bit of force, so paddle or quarter, something, just enough to move. And then what we're looking for is the ability to hold that pressure through and not fall this way.
What about the layback? Keep your normal layback.
If you can keep your normal layback, that is stupendously awesome. Most people, when they do feet out, will end up doing something like this because it's a very challenging piece, particularly in a single, to do.
It would your contact, when you lose contact with your feet with shoes out and you lay back, does that determine what your proper layback should be?
Well, it's showing you how effective you are in terms of actually adding energy, adding speed to the system. So what's happening frequently, so as we get into this point here, if I don't have enough force into my feet somewhere, I may be moving this way, I might be adding a little speed, but I'm not really connected to the feet, so it's not as efficient. If I take the feet out, then if I don't have this connection, I get here and I realize there's this inertia of my body moving this way. And so if I don't have any seatbelt on there, whoa, how do I? So I have to be able to kind of have enough core strength to stay up and supported. And also when I'm doing this, there's a muscular connection that's running right down through my adductor compartment right to my toe. So there's a continuity that's coming all the way up through. And if I don't have this continuity, then as I move in, all my weight is just back on my tailbone and I'm kind of just falling into bow, which will push the bow down, which is something we are moving towards not doing because we want the boat up out of the water, less wetted surface. Does that make sense?
I think the layback, I wouldn't focus too much on it because I think it's really a factor. I haven't done this in sculling all day.
Yeah.
But in sweep, it's really a factor of how effective you are and how clean you are in getting the blade out of the water. So
it's getting the blade out of the water, assuming that you've maintained the connection,
right.
And that's where people. So if they're not clean and getting out, and because they're not clean and getting out, because many times, nearly always, they haven't. As they get down to about here, either the legs have gone down, and then they've gone down in such a way where it's bam, and then I've just lost all the consistency of connection of force into the foot plate. So we look at our speed curve, there's like this little dip through, and then they try to kind of pick it up through here. It's not smooth. It's like, trying to sit in the car with somebody who's learning how to drive a stick shift for the first time. You get lots of this because they don't have the smooth engagement of the clutch yet. So we'd like to be able to maintain this force so that as I've talked about in the past, our legs are moving all the way to the finish, which ensures that we have pressure here. And if we do all this, then that ensures that we have contact with the blade against the stern side surface of the water, which gives us the pocket. And if we let off, even for just a hundredth of a second, the water just starts scooping in on that. And then when we get to the end and want to bring the blade out, we have nothing to do it with, and that's where we get stuck. So if we maintain the contact, then we have pressure all the way through, and then we just have to make sure we get out cleanly. So the
layback will take care of itself.
The layback will totally take care of itself. You'll find that you're doing this because oh my gosh, it's like exactly. And so you just work that, and then putting your feet back in, you're like, oh, this is so much easier, which is the point of the drill. So you do it, and for the time being, low rate, light pressure, because in a single, if you do catch a little, you're going to get these little kind of mini crabs a little bit. there's nothing to hold you in. So if you catch, you know, a big enough crab, you'll be in the water quick, which is why we do this in July and not in April.
Well, you know the water temperature isn't down this year.
It's fine. The air temperature's fine. It's totally within acceptable parameters. So, any questions about that?
So we're going to do pieces with our feet out of it?
No pieces with the feet out. No. You're going to do drills, and you're going to you can start one of two ways. You can either just have all the Velcro or the straps very loose, so there's room to move, or you can put your feet right on top with your heels in the heel cups. And you're just going to, after you've warmed up, you're just going to row with that for a little while and just see how it goes. And if you can, while I'm out there, just flag me over and show me what's going on with that. And then after you've done that, you know, for maybe a lap or two, then you can pop your feet back in and everything will feel a lot easier. Is that right?
So that.
All right.